Let's hear it for Keisha. She is awesome. She's the reason I'm here. She and Reverend Deckard, when as she said, I came down and not that I'm anybody now, but I was especially not anybody then. No one in Houston knew who I was, or would admit that they knew who I was at the time. Reverend Deckard welcomed us into his church. I got to meet Dexter McCoy at that same time. Dexter's in the back, who is with us today. We met Keisha, and after we got the tour of the church from Reverend Deckard, Keisha, as she said, hey, if you want to know the neighborhood, you don't get to just come to the church and meet Pastor Deckard and shake a few hands in here. Let's go meet the people who live in the neighborhood. And so we went down to the store that she's talking about, the store that you know about, the bulletproof glass at the counter, the folks who were hanging out around up front, that Keisha knew by name, every single one of them, knew their stories, knew the number of times that they had been shot and where they had been shot in some cases. Said, hey, Beto, I want you to see where this guy has been in his life and what he's been through and who he is, because typically a guy like you wouldn't ever know his story, so that doesn't become part of your story and what you're doing and what you'll represent. So get to know this guy. And we did, and I remember, and I hope you remember too, introducing me to Magic. And Magic, we meet in the store. Keisha, of course, knows him, knows his name, knows his story, and shares with me that Magic doesn't have a home. He's homeless, and he's basically living here in the parking lot in and around the store. And stupidly, Pendejo, Beto, asks Magic, tell me what happened to you, or why you can't get a job. Is there not enough work, or do you not have the skills that you need? And Magic and Keisha were so patient with me, and Magic says, listen, when you don't have a home, and you don't have a place that you can shower, and you don't have a place that you're going to get sleep in, and you are unable to get clothes to put on, it's really hard to go in for the job interview. It's really hard for people who work with you, if you land the job, to stand the smell of you when you're unable to take care of yourself and clean yourself and clothe yourself. And Magic made the point to me that now is stuck with me, and I understand, and I want to lead with this, that if you don't have a home, it's really hard to have anything else in your life. And that's where we have to start, is making sure that every single one of us, without fail, has the opportunity to live with dignity and have function in our community and be able to contribute beyond what it means for ourselves, our bank account, our own bottom line, even our family, to the success of our community. That's all that Magic wants to be able to do. That's all the people that Keisha introduced me to want to be able to do. Y no me importa if they're not going to vote, don't want to vote, or unable to vote because they're still on probation, or in parole, or in the criminal justice system. Which, by the way, if we're honest about ourselves, in some pernicious way was designed for this outcome, where there are going to be some people who just cannot participate in their community, who can't participate in their democracy, who aren't going to have a role in civic life in Houston, or in the success of our state, or the direction of our country. That's not by accident, that's by design. And a lot of that came home to me, being with Keisha, and being with Reverend Deckard, who was with us as well, and knew everybody by name, and was taking care of everyone, and chose to be here to start his ministry, and chose to be here during and after Harvey, where we met him again, as Keisha said, and had the opportunity to offer our poor contribution of diapers and bleach and water and cleaning supplies for the people of this neighborhood who were coming here to pick up those supplies, or have a moment of dryness under a roof before going back into their homes that were leaking, that were waterlogged, wherever they had to go, they knew they could come here first. And we wanted to support that, learn from it, and be inspired by it, as we were. You gotta be, at this point, sick of the stories of heroism during Harvey, right? You all lived it, you are the heroes. But I'll tell you, as an El Pasoan from the Chihuahuan desert, who doesn't know what this wet stuff is outside, coming here, going to the George Brown Convention Center, coming to the Greenhouse International Church, going to these different places and seeing the heroes among us changed my life, absolutely inspired me. Met a veterinarian at the George Brown Convention Center while there were thousands of people being housed there, who had no fewer than 12 pairs of shoes wrapped around his neck, and shoes that he was carrying in both hands. And I stopped him, I said, "You gotta tell me your story." And he said he met a young man who for days was tugging a boat with the rope wrapped around his chest, down a street, going house to house, door to door, filling that boat with people, their pets, their belongings, and just pulling it along with sheer force of will and strength, and in the process lost his shoes and was doing this barefoot. And that's the way he showed up at the George R. Brown Convention Center. And so this veterinarian that night goes on Facebook and he says, "You'll never believe this, I just met this guy who has been saving people for the last couple of days, and his clothes are shredded, he no longer has shoes. The guy is as worn out as can be. If anyone has an extra pair of shoes, size 12, here's my address, leave them on my doorstep." He wakes up the next morning, and there are more pairs of shoes on his doorstep than he can bring in with him. And the dozens of pairs that he has is all that he could fit on his body to bring in to the convention center. We saw that everywhere we went. We were in Rockport, where the storm made landfall, smashed to pieces that town, those homes, the worldly possessions of the people of Rockport. And you had these 20 heroes who comprised the Rockport Volunteer Fire Department, women and men, in one case husband and wife, who were in the firehouse when the storm hit, and closed the doors, felt the walls buckle, the roof about to cave, but the structure held. But for those 20 volunteer firefighters, 8 of them lost everything, lost their homes, everything material that they owned. And yet here we were in Rockport a week after the storm, and all 20 of them, including the 8 who lost everything, were still in the firehouse, sleeping on the floor, going out to handle triple, quadruple the emergency calls that were coming in pre-Harvey, because now the rain had stopped. And they were rescuing people out of homes that were too dangerous to be in. They were addressing issues like gas lines that were now leaking and catching fire and harming potentially the people that they cared for. And so they were going to put their lives on the line, though they lost everything, to save their fellow Texans, their fellow humans. And there were volunteers from all over the state of Texas, volunteer fire departments that sent people down to Rockport. And as I was leaving, one of the most beautiful moments of my time there, another volunteer fire department was just pulling up that had driven 2 days from Guanajuato, Mexico, to help their fellow firefighters in Rockport, Texas, United States of America. And they could care less about Trump or a wall or the political boundaries that would otherwise provide us. They were just going to be there for their fellow human beings and do the right thing. And it was beautiful. And improbably, that team from Guanajuato, Mexico, those volunteer firefighters, were led by a young man named Beto. And so Beto from Guanajuato and Beto from El Paso briefly served as the translators between the Guanajuato and Rockport fire departments. Everywhere we went, people just blowing us away with their generosity, with their courage, with their strength, with their determination, with their sacrifice. You know the story, and this is one we got to share, right? When you have Donald Trump, during the State of the Union, conflate dreamers, young asylum seekers, with gang members who kill our teenage daughters in this country, which is exactly what he did. You tell him this story of Alonzo Guillen from Lufkin, Texas, a dreamer, every bit as American as anyone else that I know in this country, certainly as American as I am, right? Who did what so many of you did. He heard about Harvey, knew what was going on in this community, hitched his own boat to his own truck, drove down here to try to save the lives of perfect strangers because he loves this country and he wants to do right by Texas and he wants to help where help is needed. And that's what he did. He put in near Houston and began the work of saving the lives of people he had never met before, and in the process lost his own life. sacrificed himself for others. And so when we're talking about dreamers, and we're talking about the moral question of this moment, let's remember Alonzo Guillen and 800,000, maybe a million plus young people who contribute to the success, the security, the safety, the strength, the very essence of what it is to be Texan, to be American, to be human. Let's make sure that they're here, that they're contributing to their full potential as U.S. citizens in our democracy, in the life of our communities, the businesses that they create, the jobs that they grow, the novels that they'll write, the works of art that they'll produce, the quality of life that they'll enhance, the families that they'll raise, the contribution that they're going to make to our understanding of who we are, not taking from, but contributing to the American dream. That's one of the things I learned during Harvey about Texas, about who we are. You give a Texan, any Texan, whatever their stripe, Republican, Democrat, Independent, big city, small farm, whatever their background, the opportunity to do the right thing by and for their fellow Texans, and they will every single time. It doesn't matter where I am, if I'm in Houston or if I'm in Henrietta. People know that when someone can't see a doctor or afford their medication, or is too sick to go to work or to take care of a family member or to create that business or do whatever they and God intended for themselves in their life, it's not good for that person, and it's certainly not good for the rest of us. And so I don't know what they call it in different parts of Texas. I know it as universal health care. Every single one of us has the right to be well, regardless of circumstance or luck or fortune, as a universal basic human right. The fact that we're alive and we're here together. That's doing right by each other, and folks get that. And they get it beyond geography, they get it beyond party. Folks get that we shouldn't have a 2,000-mile, 30-foot high, pure concrete wall to separate us from those firefighters in Guanajuato who are coming to help us out. They know that if you're going to pour that concrete and build that wall, do it out at sea and save Galveston, or Beaumont, or Port Arthur, or Houston. We don't need it with the border with Mexico at a time of record safety and security. El Paso, Texas, my hometown. Anyone from El Chuco in the room? Anyone wish they were? We got some from El Paso. One of, if not the safest cities in the United States of America today, not in spite of, but largely because we are conjoined with Ciudad Juarez, forming the largest binational community in the Western Hemisphere, largely because a quarter of those that I represent in Congress, I represent over 700,000 people in Congress, a quarter of them were born somewhere else and chose us. They wanted to be here. Imagine the choice for those of you who haven't made that choice, and some here have, but leaving your hometown, your family, the language that you know, the culture in which you were raised, to come to a strange place and learn a new tongue and try to fit in with the customs and the ways of this new place, certainly to do better for yourself and for your kids and for your family, but also because you are inspired by the idea of America and you want to do better for her as well. That's what's going on in El Paso. That's what's going on in Texas, the defining border state. So listen, not enough for us to stop the wall, though we must. We've got to replace that with immigration laws that are cast in our own image, that reflect what this room looks like right now. Our experiences, our values, the traditions that have distinguished Texas, this big, bold, beautiful, courageous state of immigrants, the defining border state, our connection to the rest of the world, and it's beautiful. That's what I want to do as your U.S. Senator. I want to meet the fear, the smallness, the paranoia, the anxiety, the bigotry that distinguishes this administration and so much of public life at the national level right now. With our confidence, our courage, our big heart, who we are in Texas. And again, this isn't Democrats talking, this isn't Republicans, this is Texas talking. This is who we are. A really proud, beautiful people. As we stand in the most diverse city in the United States of America today. That makes me really proud to say that. Probably makes me really proud to know that. So healthcare, immigration, making sure that every single one of us has the purpose and the function and the dignity that comes with having a job that pays more than a living wage so that you can set something aside for yourself, you can invest in the future, you have the opportunity to take risk and start that business or create that work of art or start that punk rock band and tour the country in your Econoline van. Whatever it is you do, when you're able to work at that level, yeah, it benefits you, but it benefits all of us. The taxes that you pay, that's something that we can measure. The jobs that you create, that's something that's important. But the quality of life that you produce for your community, your neighborhood, for your country. Following Keisha's example, and she is making life better for Magic and for the other people that she's introduced me to. Even just the common humanity of shaking somebody's hand or knowing somebody's first name or just saying, how are you doing? Even if you can't spare a dime to help them out, even if you don't have a job to offer them, a roof to put over their head, man, that is such a beautiful, humanizing thing to say someone's name and for them to know that they are important to you, at least important enough to know. That's what we get when people are able to work. And so what are we doing? Producing $1.4 trillion in outstanding student loan debt in this country, making it so hard for people to get that education, to receive that training, to get that welding certification, to be able to work in those jobs that pay well and allow you to contribute back in a meaningful way. I was in Fort Stockton. I don't know if anyone's been to Fort Stockton in Pecos County, known to us in El Paso as East Texas, west to you. Improbably in a Dickey's barbecue owned by a vegetarian. And we meet a young doctor from Pecos, educated at Harvard, debt-free, because the county of Pecos, not the richest county in the United States of America or Texas, and the state of Texas at that time, thought it was in their interest to invest in this young man's education. They paid full tuition at Harvard Medical School on condition that he come back to Pecos for 6 years. So here's the deal. We give you the full ride, you come back for 6 years, then we cut you loose, and the world is your oyster, go wherever you'd like to go. When I talked to him in that Dickey's barbecue, owned by that vegetarian in Fort Stockton in Pecos County, he was in his 8th year back in Pecos. He married his high school sweetheart. He was raising 2 beautiful kids. Not only was he taking care of those who had nurtured him and ensured his success, he was returning vitality and literally life back to a town that was bleeding talent and youth for decades before then. What if we followed his lead, the lead of Pecos County, the lead of Texas, and ensured that any young person, any middle-aged person, any older person for that matter, that wants to better themselves with an education that they can turn around and use to better the lives of those that they live with in their community, should be able to do it debt-free. Makes a lot of sense to me. I'd love to see Texas lead on that. So there are a lot of things that are inspiring to me about Texas that I have learned along the way. A lot of things that are exciting to me, a lot of amazing people that I've met in the 206 counties that I've visited so far over the last 14 months. 254 total counties in the state of Texas, so we're going to get there soon. And the people that have shared their stories, that moment in that Dickey's barbecue, or that tough moment in Lufkin where a woman approaches a microphone and says, Beto, you should know that my brother gets arrested on purpose to be able to go to the county jail so that they can treat his schizophrenia. It's the only place that he can get health care. And we follow up on that and learn that the county jail system in the state of Texas is the single largest provider of mental health care services in the state of Texas. Or a woman in Austin says, Beto, I want you to know that women's health care is important to me, and I want to know where you are on this. And I say, well, it's important that a woman can make her own decisions about her own body, and I believe in a woman's right to choose, and that's important to me. And I thought, I said the right thing, I'm going to make her happy. And I could tell that she was disappointed in my answer. And so I went up to her afterwards, I said, tell me what I got wrong in here. I have, you know, a great voting record on this issue. It means a lot to me. We in El Paso don't have a Planned Parenthood clinic. I've seen firsthand the consequence and the cost. And she said, Beto, you didn't mention this. And it surprises me that you don't know it. We lead, not the United States of America, we lead the developed world in the rate of maternal mortality right now. We made it so hard for women to get a cervical cancer screening, to meet a family planning provider, to just see that person who will literally make the life or death difference for them. That we are losing women in this state faster than any other place in the developed world. And if you happen to be an African American woman, the rate is 3 to 6 times worse, 3 to 6 times more deadly. Let's say that. This is an issue of life and death. And so I'll tell you, after listening to her and learning that, it added new urgency to our work in Congress, to this race to represent you in the United States Senate, and made it very clear the consequences of our victory or our failure if we don't win. Whatever brought you out today, it could be the issues that I have raised so far. It could be climate change and knowing that the storms that we have been seeing are only going to become more intense, more severe, and more frequent, especially if we do nothing to arrest the warming of this planet, which, if we go 2 degrees Celsius higher, trains off the tracks, we lose it for the generations that follow us. There will not be human beings in Houston not too far down the road. It could be that you're excited about getting past the small stuff, the continuing resolutions that have plagued us for almost 10 years, being able to fully fund our government, meet our commitment to our service members, help those who borne the battle get the care and the treatment that they deserve that will save their lives in VAs across this country and certainly in Houston, and move on to the really big stuff. Could we cure cancer? Or find a cure for Alzheimer's? Or at a minimum, get PEP and PrEP treatments for people in this community to make sure that we save lives and prevent them from having HIV. These are just a couple of things that if we're ambitious, if we're aspirational, we are going to be able to achieve. So look, I've made the case, and I don't think I needed to because you're already here, that this election, this year, this moment, could not be more critical, more important, or more urgent. And in case you didn't know, beyond going to all 254 counties and going to King County, small county though it is the most Republican county in the United States of America, where they voted for Donald Trump 96.5%, where Wendy Davis got all of 1 vote in 2014. To listen to the people of King County, if for no other reason than I want the people of King County to know that I listen to them, and that I've heard them, and that I understand them, and I want to represent them, and I want to fight for them. We're running this the right way, the way that Sheila Jackson Lee would run a campaign if she were running statewide, listening to everybody, being with everybody, fighting for everybody, the way that she runs her campaign here in Houston. And in addition, we've got no one from the outside in the form of a pollster or a focus group or a consultant. We have no corporations, no political action committees involved in this campaign, no special interests. It's just people and human beings. Could it be more urgent? I don't think we could be running this campaign in a better, more honest, more direct and connected way, and it could not be more possible. And let me give you some reasons why. Look, the best proof of this is what we're doing right now. The fact that you're here, the energy in the room, 9 months away from an election, this many people coming together around the future of our country, that's a really great sign that something good is happening right now. But if you need some harder proof, if you need to share with that doubting brother or mother or member of your family or colleague or classmate who says, yeah, I thought this was a red state. Tell them a couple things. Tell them, first of all, this is not a red state. This is a non-voting state. It's a non-voting state by design. When you have the courts 4 times last year alone find that we have gerrymandered people out of their congressional districts solely based their race and their ethnicity. This is a non-voting state on purpose, and you've got to run a campaign that transcends that. But also share with them that they polled this race 2 weeks ago, and they found that with 9 months to go, we are single digits behind Ted Cruz. Just 8 points to go, and we're going on really fast. When respondents to that poll found out that all of us have decided that we're not going to take PAC money, we're ahead in that poll by 2 points. We're ahead of the junior senator from Texas, Ted Cruz. And then, listen, the only way that I can get here is to put gas in the tank of the car so we could drive from the town hall that we just held in Orange to the town hall that we're holding here in Greenspoint. And that gas costs money. And your contribution of $5 or $10 or $15 at betofortexas.com literally put the gas in the tank of our car. And in the last 3-month reporting period, 55,000 times people made contributions to this campaign, raising $2.4 million in just 3 months, which is $500,000 more than Ted Cruz raised in that same period of time. So you guys are kicking his ass, and you're doing it the right way. My 7-year-old will often ask me if we're winning, and I'll tell him that's not how elections work. You have to go through a primary, and then after you win the primary, you got to go to the general election. And now I tell him, yeah, we're winning. We're absolutely winning this race. So thank you all for making it possible. Listen. When I first, I want to have a chance to listen to you, answer your questions, get your suggestions, your ideas, your guidance, your direction. I want to be able to run the best campaign this state has ever seen, and I cannot do it without you. I will be all ears, but I first want to introduce you to somebody that you already know, who has had a significant impact on my life. When I was elected to Congress in 2012, I had my first choice of serving on the House Veterans Affairs Committee, on which I'm still serving, and was sworn in 2013. The other committee on which I was able to serve was the House Homeland Security Committee. Really important committee, a great opportunity for me to share the perspective of the U.S.-Mexico border with my colleagues who may not be from the border or understand the border. But the first day of work, we had a committee hearing in what is known as a SCIF. These are these classified hearing rooms in the bowels of the Capitol, where you have to surrender your cell phone before you go in, and you're going to be briefed on the most classified, dangerous stuff that you need to know about as a member of Congress. It's my first day. I don't know my way around the Capitol. The SCIF is really hard to find. I'm intimidated. I have imposter syndrome, like when are these people going to figure out that I'm not supposed to be here and I don't really belong. So I'm trying to look congressional and like a statesman, and I finally find the SCIF. I'm running about 5 to 10 minutes late, bust through the door, and quickly sit down at the table as the hearing has already started. And there's questions and answers going back and forth, and I'm not even listening. I'm just, when you're that anxious and you're a little bit scared, your brain's not processing anything, and a staffer taps me on the shoulder, and I said, no, I got it, I'm cool, I know what I'm doing here, I'm a member of Congress. And, because I didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted to project that, and they tapped me again, and I kind of waved them off, and then finally the staffer leaned into my ear, and she said, sir, you're sitting at the witness table right now. So, I sheepishly got up and sat down with the other members of Congress, one of whom was Sheila Jackson Lee, who has become one of my all-time heroes, and I'll tell you for several reasons. One, on that Homeland Security Committee, where you have people who are inciting fear of Mexicans and folks from other parts of the world, maybe based on their religion, maybe based on the country that they come from, maybe based on the color of their skin. She is somebody who stands up and fights for everyone, and she does it in the most rational, logical, persuasive, compelling way. And as someone who did not know Sheila Jackson Lee before, and I was just instantly proud of her, and I felt a kinship to her. Like, though she's not from El Paso, Texas, she gets us, and she's standing up for us, and she's an ally. She was also senior to me on the committee, so she was in a senior position to shape the policy that we were writing on that committee, and always took pains to listen to the new guy who had just shown up, who didn't know anything, the guy who was sitting at the witness table just minutes before, to get my input and my guidance based on the things that I knew best about my community. She is a voice for justice and reason and the best aspects of America on the floor of the House, addressing the issues of the day in the most passionate language possible to get your attention and make you focus on what's important. And then I come to Houston as a candidate starting 14 months ago. And I do not go to a place that Sheila Jackson Lee has not just been at or is about to come to or is already there working with those business owners, that nonprofit, the homeless shelter, anyone, anywhere, anytime who needs some representation and an advocate and a person in a position of public trust and power who will listen to them. And so she has become my model and my example of how you take care of people in your community. And it is with great pride and such an honor that I introduce Sheila Jackson Lee and ask her to come on up and say a few words. And then I would love to answer your questions. Sheila, thank you for being here.